Greetings once again to another episode of Remember Me Daily Lent Readings. Um, we're going to just go ahead read the reading for Thursday after the first Sunday of Lent. The fear of the Lord is holy, remaining forever and ever. The fear of God is of three kinds, all three good, just, sanctifying, and proceeding from the Holy Spirit, but not equal in beauty nor in moral value. The first is the fear of chastisement God inflicts on the sinner. The second, the fear of the sin that offends God. The third is no other than an enlightened, profound, and practical conviction of the infinite and divine majesty and of the ineffable reverence that is his due. The first fear diminishes as the second grows. The second, in its progress, closely follows that of love, and as St. John teaches, where love is perfect, it destroys the earlier fear, not perhaps in its essential elements, here below, but in its exercise. As to the third, it not only believes, as the second does, but in one sense is charity itself, for it sees and feels that its object surpasses it on every side, in every way, and in that infinitely. It is in this sense that fear dwells in paradise, and there only is perfected. It's by Monsignor Gay, and a short section by Saint Augustine. He need not fear anything, nor be ashamed of anything, who bears the sign of the cross on his brow. So, this again, I know an earlier episode we were talking about the triple way that we were talking about of Saint Bonaventure's popular book. But these three kinds of fear kind of reminds me again of the triple way, and we're just going to go over it just to reiterate. The fear of chastisement God inflicts on the sinner. Um, that that's the first thing. The second one is the fear that sin offends God, and third, the enlightened and profound and practical conviction of the infinite majesty and of the ineffable reverence that is his due. So going back to what I was saying, number one reminds me, number one, the purgative way equals the fear of chastisement. We give up sin because of a general fear. Um, in this first state, we have attrition, which is an imperfect sorrow for sin, distinguished from contrition by the motive which is the fear of God's punishments or of the heinousness of sin. And although this, attrition is good, but although it's imperfect, it has beauty because the modern man has little to no attrition. So, right, again, just to reiterate, yeah, it is imperfect to have attrition, and that's what most of us have. Just to put it in simpler terms, attrition is just the fear of consequences of God, exactly what it says, the fear of chastisement that God inflicts on the sinner. Now, this fear is holy and it is beautiful, like I just stated, but it's also imperfect. Let me just allow me to just turn the page right here. So it is imperfect. If we die with attrition, if we die in the state of grace, we're going to spend a lot of time in purgatory, purging that imperfect love from our souls. Now, this is why it's important to not stay and not linger on and in the purgative stage. I know some people can't help it, but I do believe with prayer and fasting and taking your faith seriously and taking advantage of the sacraments given to you, that is Holy Mass, the Eucharist, and the sacrament of penance, you can grow farther than that, and eventually your soul will grow to the point where you will get past the purgative stage. We don't want to Realistically, we don't want to die in the purgative stage, just because maybe in a later video we'll cover purgatory and stuff like that. But the flames in purgatory are exactly the same as the flames in hell. There's essentially no difference. It's as painful. The only difference between purgatory and hell is that hell has no end. Purgatory does, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the flames don't hurt the same. So it is important, and I'm in there too. We're all in the purgative stage. I'm in the purgative stage. We all need to slowly, eventually, right? We need to get out of there, and we need to get into a place farther than just the fear of chastisement of God, the fear of punishment. We need to get farther because, like I said, and like it's understood, like it's generally understood, attrition is good because it's you recognize that you've done wrong in God's eyes, but attrition is just fear and sorrow for the punishments, and we gotta that's very it's a starter, it's very good, but it's still an imperfect love, and we should grow from it. But moving on, this reminds me the fear that sin offends God. This reminds me of the illuminative way. After spiritual progress, the soul will fear through contrition, which is sorrow and detestation of sin, which has been committed, together with the purpose of sinning no more. So, in the purgative way, sin and we sin and they're stupid mistakes. Sometimes we sin because we're just imperfect beings. But at this point, once you get to the illuminative way, you should be stronger at giving up your sins. Um, the hardest part again is the second part. The reason why most people cannot get to the illuminative way is it's a firm perfect purpose to sin no more. We just talked about that right now. Just reading the notes. Most people, either by weakness, but more often by pusillanimity, which is a smallness of soul which prompts one to shun virtuous actions, stay spiritually stunted, and have an imperfect love for God, meaning if they die in the state of grace, they will be in purgatory for a long time. We talked about that right now when we're talking about dying in the purgative stage, on the purgative way. Um, yeah, pusillanimity is very important. It's and a lot of people have a lot of people who venture further than the boilerplate purgative way. They have that issue. They have pusillanimity, and that kind of stops them from getting to the illuminative stage, right? It's kind of like I don't want to do more. Like people hide like pusillanimity. They'll hide it under false humility. I remember, if I read correctly, St. Thomas Aquinas talks about that most people sometimes they'll abuse humility. They'll use this fake humility, and they try to sell it to you like pusillanimity. Well, they try to sell it to you as humility, but it's actually pusillanimity hidden as humility, which is what people use as an excuse for why I can't do that, why I can't pray more, why I can't go to mass more, why I can't do a longer holy hour, why I can't do any of that. And to get to the illuminative way, we have to have a firm purpose to sin no more. And sometimes why the pusillanimity is in line with that firm purpose. What stops people from doing that is that some people know, right? Sometimes you know that you might have a certain friend that is a bad influence. You might have certain shows or certain music, which is hard, right, to give up. But you have to give that up because it leads to sin. And maybe you can say, like, well, I'm strong enough. I have a strong enough prayer life that it doesn't generally affect me. But I'll put it kind of like like this analogy, right? How does a drop of water break a boulder in half? Well, it seeps into a small crack. In the night, it freezes and it expands a little, and it takes time. It might not be overnight, but after years and years and years of doing it, the boulder splits in half. And that's the same thing with this stuff. Even if you have a good prayer life, if you keep yourself with questionable things, like questionable people, sinful shows, sinful music, just a sinful atmosphere, you will fall into sin. That's why the more you grow and you start knowing that you're entering into the illuminative stages, because you start retracting more and more from the world, and being of the world doesn't interest you. One thing to know for certain, for sure, that you're not in the illuminative way is if you still have this firm conviction to like go out on the weekends, especially Saturday night. when you're supposed to be preparing for mass, right? Because the mass is literally going to be the next morning. You're out Saturday night partying, drinking, doing whatever, which you should be spending getting your soul prepared for our Lord's coming in the mass. But it's that pusillanimity that most people have, that they don't want to give that up. It's kind of like, I know it's, and they tell you, I know it's bad, I know it's not good for me to do this, but I mean, like, they'll start saying, well, I'm a weak person, and the Lord knows that I'm a weak person, and that's why I do this. And but remember that stuff, right? When you hear it from somebody else saying it, that's usually just pusillanimity hidden and being sold to you as humility. It's not humility. It's not humility. Real humility is, right. There is real humility, but when you recognize what's wrong and what you need to do, right? Humility is not having, like, not doing things without knowing, and recognize, like, sometimes I'm a weak human, but there's a fine line. And like I said, most people try to sell pusillanimity as humility because they know more or less, like, hey, I shouldn't be going out on Saturday. Hey, I shouldn't be listening to this artist. Hey, I shouldn't be listening to this show or anything, or watching the show. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be listening to certain podcasts. And they refuse to do it. And they'll tell you, well, I'm a weak human. But it's not that you're weak. It's just that you don't want to do it. You don't want to progress. And you stay in a state, right? Stay stuck in the purgative stage, not even far out into the purgative stage, but just at the beginning stages. And that stuff, right? That stuff could lead you to hell. But anyway, moving on is the unitive way, which reminded me of the this section: an enlightened and profound and practical conviction of the infinite and divine majesty, and of the ineffable reverence that is his due. Um, Sometimes, and I can only comment on this because obviously I'm not in the unitive way. Um, if I'm being honest with you, I might have gotten taste of it, um, but not fully. But yeah, I'm not saying this to show off or anything like that. It's just sometimes, I feel personally that God has given me a preview of these things just to show me what I could be if I really apply myself. And anyway, um, when you get to this stage, sin won't make sense anymore. Like it would, we will. It's kind of like um you will go past the human urge to sin. Like sin won't make, like, oh, that's like, you would, things would, like, have you ever heard, like, babble? You'd be like, what is that? You make a face, you hear it, like, no, it doesn't even make sense. Doesn't make, it would kind of be like, yeah, like if somebody, like, sinning at this point would be like if somebody offered you to be like, hey, do you want to eat horse manure? You'd be like, what? Why would I do that? Right? And you'll get to that point. I think in the unitive stage, you'll get to that point where you're just like, why would I even do that? Like, that doesn't even make sense, right? See, it's past the fear of God. It's past the like it's past the even the unitive way, that the offending God is just even like, you will be in line with God so much that sitting will just, it wouldn't even make sense to you, right? That's the only thing that just generally would cause confusion. And just a confusion, not like you're confused and you do it, but a confusion like, who in the world would even think about doing this, right? You will get, I feel, right, that you will get tempted and like that, why even do that? Why even do sins? And of course, like, I've gotten a taste of it, I with certain temptations that I've had, and it's just like, why would I even do that? Like, what? That doesn't even, like, why? Like, you can see the chaos that, like, even before it happens. Because I think what happens with people is that, I think what happens is that, because short-sighted people are so short-sighted, and they don't see the consequences of their sins. They just do things without, like, we'll figure it out tomorrow, instead of just like, what are the consequences of this? But when you get to the illuminated stage, like, you already know, like, you already automatic, like, sin equals chaos. Chaos, I don't want anything of that. I don't want chaos in my life. And that's like, why would I allow this? Why would I allow chaos in my life? Like I said, I haven't, I've only gotten, I feel like I've only gotten a taste of it. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about right now, because this is very deep stuff, mystic stuff, you could say. But yeah, I feel like when you get to that stage, um, it's like I'm not gonna write like this stuff. Basically, um, it's beneath not just you. It's like, well, it's beneath God, and not only that, it's beneath you. You get to a point where it's like this idea is literally beneath me. I think you would have like a holy, um, I guess yeah, yeah. It's like it's beneath you. I would say, I don't know the word right now, but you would be like, that's beneath me. Sin, it's beneath me. Like I wouldn't do that. Like it's a waste of time. Like that's for animals, or that's Neanderthals, right? Even though we don't believe in them, but it's for cavemen. This stuff's for cavemen. This stuff's for nincompoops. And you look at it like that. It's like even the suggestions that the demons have for you just be presented to you, and you're like, why? Like, you generally, like, who would do that? Who would want to do that? When before you would be like, oh yeah, let's go ahead, do that, right? Maybe sins of the flesh, especially, that would be like sin. Like, who would want to do that? Who would want to? You would get to a distaste. Who would want to fornicate? Like, that's a bad idea. Why would I want to lower myself? Why would I want to lower myself, degenerate myself to that level? And but that's what these readings reminded me of. And again, got to think about that during Lent. um, just think about that. Think about our holy progress, our spiritual progress, seeing how fast we're going. And keep in there, keep praying, keep meditating. If you're fasting, keep fasting. If you haven't, if you have gotten off your Lenten devotions, get back on there. And again, hope you guys are doing well this Lent. Hope you guys are doing pretty good. We're getting close to another Sunday. Got another Sunday down. I don't know how many to go. I'll count it another time to let you guys know. But we are at the second Sunday of Lent. And to be honest with you, it feels like it's going really far. I mean, it's going really fast. So if you think this Lent is going sluggishly along, maybe it's just the stuff that I'm doing in my life. But I feel like Lent's going pretty quick. Sooner or later, we'll be there at Easter. So you guys hang in there. Pray for me as I'll pray for you. And till next time, God bless.